Okay, good morning, everybody, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning as we are entering a new Perashat Beshalah. Today's class is sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shema Vol Vam Israel. This month's classes are also dedicated to Lushmat David Ben Naima by the Aharon family, and today's class is also dedicated, finally, Leilu Nishmat Nili Marcus Malka Bat Geraz by the Marcus family. Rabotai, we are up to Perashat Beshalah. And there's one thing as Jews that we love, and that is money. So today let's talk a little bit about money, okay? We know that the Jewish people, it was already prophesied to Avraham. God says to Avraham that Yadoa Teda, you shall surely know, that your children will one day be strangers in a foreign land. Vavadum, they're going to be enslaved, they're going to be tortured for 400 years. But don't worry, because when they leave, Yetz'u b'rchush gadol, they're going to leave with a lot of money. And Avraham said, Baruch Hashem. Okay, I don't know if he said that. But we were promised money that when we leave, we were promised that we're going to have a lot of money. Okay, very nice. Did God keep true to his promise? Did the Jews make a lot of money when they left Egypt? So the answer is yes, 2 times. God made good on his word once when we left, and he made good on his word a second time. The Jews actually became wealthy twice when they left Misraim. The first time is the night that they left. They knocked on all the doors of their neighbors and they said, hey, do you mind if we have some gold, some silver? I think you owe us. There's a balance. We worked for you for many years for free. And the Egyptians gave them the money. They gave it to the Jews. They gave it all. The Jews became very rich. They left Misraim with donkeys and donkeys of gold and silver. However, my friends, there is another time that the Jews amassed a lot of wealth. And it's actually in this week's Perashah. So once was in last week's Perashah, when we left Misraim, Bo. And then we have in this week's Perashah, by Yam Suf. The Torah tells us that the Jewish people at Yam Suf, after they crossed the sea, and this Perashat Beshalach is known as Shabbat Shira, the Shabbat of song, because this week we read about the splitting of the sea and the Shira that the Jews sang when they crossed Yam Suf. We say it every day. We should be familiar. Az Yashir Moshe Ubnei Israel. Right? So that's from our Perashah. This is the song that Moses and the Jewish people sang as they crossed Yam Suf. And we even know that Miriam, she sang, and the pasuk says, Vayasa Moshe. Right after the Shira, Moshe had to draw and pull the people and on to continue the journey from Yam Suf and to go out into the desert. And why exactly did he have to pull them? Rashi says, his si'an ba'al koraham. He made them journey against their will. Why did they have to be pulled from Yam Suf? I can understand that it would be very natural for the Jews to want to continue journeying away from the water. Matter of fact, the Egyptians are all in the water. Yes, they're dead, but who knows? There's a chance maybe some of them are alive, maybe they're going to come around. It's in their best interest to go as fast as they can away. But it sounds like the people were drawn and attached to the water. Why? Says Rashi, She'iteru Misraim etzusehem. Because you need to know that the Egyptians adorned their chariots with jewelry, gold, silver, diamonds. The Egyptians, even when they went to war, they went in style. And it was to our benefit. Why? When the Egyptians drowned, all of their jewels and money would wash up onto the shore. The Jews found them. My gosh, diamonds everywhere. By the way, you should know that the riches of Bizat Hayam, of the riches that we amassed, the booty that they obtained at the Sea of Reeds, was greater. Gedolah Hayta Bizat Hayam, Bizat Misraim was greater than the booty that we took when we left Misraim. Like it says, Toreh Zahav Na'aselach Im Nekudot Hakasef. This is in Shir HaShirim, circlets of gold, which is Bizat Hayam, the booty of the sea. will we make thee together with the studs of silver? So it sounds like the Toreh Zahav, what we amassed at the Yam Suf, was greater than the Nikudot HaKasef, the little studs of silver. And therefore, Moshe had to vayasa. He had to pull them away from Misraim, Baal Korham, from Yam, from the Red Sea, Baal Korham, against their will. Okay, so the Jews became rich 2 times. Once when we left, and once 7 days later at the Yam Suf, at the Sea of Reeds. Okay, very nice. And the question really is that if we compare these 2 times that we became rich, we'll notice that there's a very different attitude that the Jews had. The first time when they took money from Egypt, the Jews were reluctant to ask for money. They didn't want to take. They were happy to leave without money. They were happy to just go on their way. And Moshe had to beg them, Daber na be'ozne'am, please take money from the Egyptians. And the people said, all right, we'll ask them. And here we are 1 week later, and the Jewish people, not only they have to be begged to take the money, quite the contrary, they have to be begged to stop taking money. Let's just go, guys, come on. The question is, why the difference of attitude? Why is it that when we left, we were not interested in money? And when we were at Yam Suf a week later, we were very attached to the money, that we were picking it up from the shores? And I'd like to share with you an answer. The truth is, the first answer that I could think of as I'm saying this, really, the answer that's coming to my mind, is really from the words of our rabbis. Our rabbis say, Ohev kesef, lo yisba kesef. That when a person likes money, let me tell you something, the secret. I don't know if it's a secret anymore. Let me tell you something. If a person is attached to money, if a person is hungry for money, they will never be satiated with it. You need to know that money is like salted water. A person drinks salt water. Do they quench their thirst? Maybe for a split second, but it makes you even more thirsty. A person likes money. So in the beginning, they only need 10,000. Then they make it, then they need 50,000, they need 100,000, they need 1 million, then they need 10 million, then they need 1 billion. And there's never enough money. Okay, and that's why you see even the richest people are going and risking and sacrificing their family, sacrificing their health, sacrificing the beauties of life just to amass more. And this is what plagues the Jewish people. In the beginning, they were slaves. They didn't have money. You said to them, do you want money? They're like, we don't really need it. No big deal. And then once they took the money, they already tasted it. And now that they tasted the money, 1 week later, they're already running and they're trying to get as much as they can from the seashore. That's the first answer. It's a beautiful idea. But today, my friends, I'd like to share with you a very powerful idea and an interesting thought into really getting down and deep. And with this, we'll understand the secret of how to fight the enemy that we all have within. That is the Yetzer Hara. Okay? Everyone have one? I think we all have one. If you don't have one, you should call me after class because there's a problem if you don't have one. Okay? We all have a Yetzer Hara. And the question is, what exactly is the Yetzer Hara? What is his strength? What is his tactic? If we could know how he fights, anyone that's a football fan knows that for the entire week, football is usually played on Sundays. It's a once-a-week game. And you're preparing all week long. And part of the preparation is learning the other team's strategy. And the better you prepare, the more you know their strategy, the better off you'll be on Sunday when it's game time. And this is something that we have to ask ourselves. What is the strategy of the Yetzer Hara? You know, our rabbis compare the Yetzer Hara actually to a food. We know as Jews there are many forbidden foods, right? As an example, we can't eat pork. We can't eat meat that's not slaughtered properly, even if it's a kosher species. We can't eat many types of birds and fish and animals. We can't eat insects. We can't eat the gid hanasheh. It's part of the animal, right, from the sciatic nerve. We can't, many things throughout the year that we're not allowed to eat. Out of all of them, anyone know which one the Yetzer Hara is compared to? Which forbidden food do we compare Yetzer Hara? And the answer is, our rabbis compare the Yetzer Hara to the chametz on Pesach. Matter of fact, when we're doing Bedikat Chametz on Pesach, many people read the L'Shem Yechu, they read a prayer right before. And part of that prayer is, Hashem, we're not only looking for the Chametz that's in the house, we're also removing the Chametz that's in my heart. We're removing the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara is compared to yeast. He's compared to Chametz. And the question is, in what way exactly is the Yetzer Hara like yeast? How are they comparable? How are they the same? Why are we comparing the two of them? Yetzer Hara and yeast. And the answer is, what does yeast do, Rabotai? Yeast, very interesting. What does it do? It takes something that's flat, it takes a little dough, and it makes it rise. And it makes something that's small look much bigger than it really is. In English, we call this an illusion. That's the strength of not only yeast, but the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is able to take anything and everything. The smallest thing that's not a big deal. The smallest enjoyment that's not so really pleasurable. And he's able to make it look so appetizing, so exciting, so juicy, to the point that it's so much bigger than it really, really is in real life. This is the strength of the Yetzer Hara. This is really the difference between matzah and chametz. If you think about it, matzah is wheat and water. And bread is wheat and water. The same exact ingredients. One of them, you eat it on Pesach, you get a mitzvah. One of them, you eat it, you get karet, the worst possible punishment. And the only difference is that one is a little bit bigger. One of them, you fluffed up, a lot of fluff. Yeah, this is the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara says, take something small, and he blows it up in our eyes. And we see it like, wow. You know, there's a Gemara. I'll share with you a Gemara. There's a very interesting Gemara and of a rabbi. And this rabbi was giving a shi'ur to the Talmidim, and he says to the students, tomorrow when we come back, we're going to talk about our good friend King Menashe. And that night the rabbi has a dream, and who comes to him in the dream? King Menashe. And Menashe says, who do you think you are calling me your friend? I ain't your friend, buddy. And the rabbi says to him, what do you mean? Who do I think I am? I call you whatever I want. You're the worst king in history. You are choteu machti harabim. You sinned. You caused others to sin. What do you mean? Who am I? Who are you? You're a Rasha. And Menashe says to the rabbi, I'm a Rasha. You think you're such a big, you're a hotshot. Let me ask you a simple halakha question. When you do hamotzi, which piece of the bread are you supposed to eat from? And the rabbi was like, what? Because you heard me. When you do hamotzi, where are you supposed to cut from the bread? Which piece of the bread are you supposed to eat from? And the rabbi was like, I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know. Where are you supposed to eat from? So he said, I'll teach you a halakha, my friend. When you do hamotzi, you eat from the most well-done piece. That's why a lot of times when you go to restaurants, you see people doing hamotzi on a slice of pizza. They say hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And where do they eat from? You ever saw this? They cut from the crust. Why do they do that? Because the crust is the most well-done piece. That's the reason people do that. That's where a person's supposed to cut from when they do hamotzi on Friday night. The most well-done. And Menashe is the one that teaches this halakha to the rabbi. And the rabbi is shocked. The rabbi can't believe it. The rabbi says, I don't believe it. If you're so knowledgeable, you even know these halachot, then let me ask you, King Menashe, how did you do so much avodah zarah? How did you run to go worship all these horrible things that are incomprehensible? Idols, things that don't make sense? And Menashe told him, if you were alive in my time, you would pick up the hem of your robe and you would run faster than me. If you were around with me, it's very easy to play Monday morning quarterback. It's very easy to look and judge someone after the fact. But if you were with me in the heat of the temptation, Baruch Hashem today, anyone on this chat want to go do Avodah Zarah after? Anyone interested? Raise your hand. You could PM me, okay? We'll go, I know a tree. Anyone have a temptation to go bow to a tree? No? Nobody? Right? How in the world did our ancestors bow to a tree? Doesn't make sense, right? None of us are tempted to do that. How do they bow down to stones, to rocks? It's the dumbest thing. The answer is, we see today how dumb it is because Baruch Hashem, we don't have the temptation. We don't have the Yetzer Hara. Or better yet, the Yetzer Hara was prevented from fluffing it up in our eyes. God, in the end of the first Beit HaMikdash, when it was destroyed, the rabbis got together and they prayed for Hashem to remove the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah, and it worked. It worked. We no longer have that temptation today. But not because we're so much wiser. Not because they were primitive. Oh, they were fools, they didn't know, they bowed down. We are just lucky that Hashem removed. By the way, the Gemara says that right after the rabbis removed that temptation for Avodah Zarah, they realized that it was a Sha'at Ratzon. So they prayed for a second temptation. What's the second biggest urge and drive that man has? The temptation for immorality, for znut. And the rabbis got together and they prayed for that temptation to also be removed. And sure enough, it worked. And it worked for a total of one day. Until what happened the next morning, the Gemara says, a lady came to the rabbis, to the Beit Midrash, and she's crying, "Rabbis, I need money, I need tzedakah." And the rabbis turned to her, they said, "Well, what'd you do till now for a form of parnasah?" And she said, "Well, every morning I would sell the eggs that my chickens laid overnight. But last night my chickens didn't lay any eggs. And therefore I have no form of parnasah for today." And the rabbis realized, wow, look at this. The temptation for immorality, yes, although it may be a bad thing, but it's also needed for the continuation of society, economically, for this continuation of life. Without that ta'ava, people will not procreate. And therefore, this is a very, very important temptation. Although it's bad, it's also needed for the good. And therefore, the rabbis prayed and the temptation came back. And therefore, we need to remember that if today Avodah Zarah is not juicy in our eyes, it's not because we're so much wiser, but it's because Hashem didn't allow the Yetzer Hara to fluff it up. And this is really the secret to what he does. He takes even the smallest thing and he knows how to hype it up. Right? That's a big word today, hype. Whenever we go to a party, it's all about hype. It's going to be great and this and that. And often when we're done, the next day, Monday morning, we're able to look back at the temptation, at the thing that we did, and the only feeling that we have is a feeling of disgust, a feeling of failure. We can't believe that we gave in. We can't believe that we did it. What was I thinking? What's the matter with me? I'm so much better than that. Matter of fact, the Or HaHayim says something beautiful. The Or HaHayim says, it's very easy for you, a person, to know when are they doing an Averah and when are they doing a mitzvah. A lot of times we have a choice to make. We're not sure, is this the right thing or is that the right thing? The Or HaHayim says, I'll give you a very easy test, and you'll know with this test if what you're about to do is a mitzvah or an Averah. Says the Or HaHayim, a mitzvah and an Averah work in exactly opposite ways. A mitzvah, before you do it, very unexciting, unappetizing. There's no appeal. There's no draw to a mitzvah before we do it. But after we do it, we feel great. When it comes to an Averah, though, says the Or HaHayim, it's the exact opposite. An Averah, before we do it, it's very exciting. Before an Averah, we're excited. Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Let's go. And then afterwards, we feel like garbage. Can't believe I did that. And that's the Yetzer Hara. And it's true not only with Averot, Ben Adam Makom. It's true Ben Adam Lachavero. Think about a person that gets into a fight with their spouse. How does a fight begin? So often a fight begins because one spouse said something to the other spouse. And what does the Yetzer Hara do? He takes that comment that the wife said or that the husband said and he blows it up. And he makes it into the biggest deal. What? You're going to take that from her? Who does she think she is? She's a nobody without you. You married her. You made her important. You this. She now is losing respect for you. How are you going to take that? Right? And the Yetzer Hara takes this small comment. What did she say? She said something, you're right, it wasn't the nicest thing that she said. But he makes it like this is the most important statement. And by saying this, she is now ready to disrespect you. And if you keep letting this go, it's over. Takarisi. Relax. Your son drops the water on the floor. Your daughter spills the soup. Okay. Is it annoying? Yeah, it's annoying. Now there's soup on the floor. Now you gotta clean it. They dropped the tahine. And it's gonna take 2 minutes to clean up. Yeah, it's not the funnest thing in the world. But is it a reason to go crazy? What's the matter with you? I tell you all the time, you gotta hold the tahine. How are you spilling? Watch what you want. Whoa. It's tahine. At the end of the day, what is it? But that's the Yetzer Hara. He comes in the middle of something that's small, and he's like yeast. And he blows it up until he makes it the biggest thing in the world. Right? That's what the Yetzer Hara does. He makes it like this is the be-all, end-all. You have to put your foot down. If it doesn't stop here, it's going to escalate. Right? That's the Yetzer Hara. He's so wise. He makes things in the beginning, he makes them look huge. And often we look back the next day as we're lying down in our beds and we feel horrible. How did I yell at my kid like that? Because they dropped tahine on the floor? Was that so? Because my wife made that comment. All right, it wasn't the most nicest thing that she ever said, but it's a reason to bug out. I don't know if I ever shared with you this story. I want to share with you a story. It's a true story that Rabbi Pesach Krohn brings down in one of his Magid books. The story is a remarkable story about a couple every summer. You know, it's very common in New York for the families, especially the ones that live in Brooklyn. They take the summers and they spend it somewhere out near the ocean or in the mountains. So the Syrians, we go to a place called Dil, Eir HaKodesh, right? And the Ashkenazim, they go to a place called the Catskills, right? They go to the mountains. And the story takes place with an Ashkenazi family. I believe they're Ashkenaz. It's a couple that went to the Catskills. And one day, the wife calls her husband on Thursday and she says to him, honey, listen, I know you're coming up every Friday because it's a far drive from Brooklyn or wherever all the way to the mountains. So most husbands, they stay where they live throughout the winter. They spend their week over there, and then they meet their family on Friday. They drive up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they come back on Monday. And I'm sure, of course, it's very hard for the husbands to be separated from their families for 4 days of the week. I'm sure the husbands are very depressed, right? But either way, this husband gets a phone call from his wife on Thursday, and she says to him, listen, honey, there's a checkbook that I need. I ran out of cash or whatever it was, and please bring the checkbook. I have to write out a lot of checks. Please, very important to bring the checkbook. He says, okay. And sure enough, she texts him again Friday, honey, bring the checkbook. I'm going to bring it. Friday afternoon before he leaves, brings the checkbook. Okay, I got it, honey, it's here, I have the checkbook. He takes the checkbook, he puts it in a small little orange bag, and he drives up to the mountains. He hands it to his wife. The wife takes the bag with the checkbook. She says, thank you very much. And what does she do? She throws it in the bedroom on the post of the baby crib. Okay, she hangs it on the corner of the crib. All right. The husband gets ready for Shabbat. He sees the bag is still there with the checkbook inside. She still didn't use it. She still didn't write a single check. Okay, it's probably Erev Shabbat. Saturday night, Sunday, it's still there. You better bring it. She drove him crazy. She didn't even write out one check. But he remembered his wife always had a phrase that she said. Everybody repeat after me. 3 words. His wife always said these 3 words. Ze lo hashuv. Anyone know what those 3 words mean? Ze lo hashuv. This is not so important. It's not the biggest deal. Right? In English we say, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff in life. You're going to drive yourself crazy for every little thing that happens. You're going to have high blood pressure, you guys. All right. Gotta be chafif, like we say in Arabic, right? You gotta be easy. Ze lo chashuv. Anyways, this guy's blood is bubbling. He's getting angry. He can't believe it. She drove him crazy. All right, anyways, Sunday night he leaves. He goes back to Brooklyn and he spends the week again in work. He drives back up Friday and again, it's there. Whole week. And he still sees check number 182. She didn't touch the checks. Okay. So important, huh, honey? He didn't say anything. But he's so angry. Inside, it's killing him. It's this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Finally, he goes back to Brooklyn. And in the middle of the week, he gets a phone call. And it was from his sister-in-law. And she was frantic. She was on the phone. She had tears in her eyes. And she's yelling and she's screaming, your wife, she's in the ER. Something happened. No one knows exactly what or how. But she's in critical condition. You got to come up as fast as possible. The husband drops everything. He rushes up to the mountains. He gets to the hospital. But Rabotai, unfortunately, by the time the husband gets there, his wife already passed away. And he couldn't believe it. And he was so torn. And he doesn't know how he's going to continue and how he's going to cope with this. And he couldn't believe this. And as he heads back home to prepare himself for the rest of his life to have to live alone without his partner, he gets back home. And what is the first thing that he bumps into when he walks into his bedroom? He sees that orange bag hanging on the side of the crib. And he looks at the checkbook, he looks at the bag. And the first check that he had to write was to the Chevra Kadisha to help the burial of his wife. This man realizes that, you know what? My wife is 100% right. Ze lo chashuv. What are the things that we're fighting about? We make such big deals. We get so jealous about other people. And we go through life, and life is so beautiful. Life has the potential to be so amazing and so fun. And what ruins our life? What takes away our happiness? We let small things, we let little tiny problems, small stuff, and they cause us so much aggravation, and we lose our simcha, and we don't let ourselves enjoy. And we have enough fighting from the goyim. We have enough Jews that are non-Jews that are trying to kill us. We got to also fight with Jews. We got to also fight with neighbors. We got to also fight with our family. We got to also fight with our spouse. We got to fight with the whole world we're fighting. What's the big deal? So she didn't put a check. Is it annoying? Yeah, it's annoying. Ze lo chashuv. And this man took this bag and he wrapped it up and he wrote on the bag those words. And wherever he went, he reminded himself, Ze lo chashuv. Rabotai, we don't need to wait for, God forbid, death to remind us of this lesson. Yetzer hara is so powerful in hyping things up, making it big, and making it look like this is it. This is the most important thing. And if you don't do it, if you don't get it, if you don't put your foot down, and we lose the quality of life. He rips us, he strips us from our happiness. He strips us from our quality of shalom bayit. He strips us from having a good relationship with our kids because of small things. Many times you speak to people that don't have a good relationship with their kids. They haven't spoken to their kids in years. And you say, what was it? What was the reason? And it's rarely is it the biggest thing in the world. It's always these small things. And as an outsider, we're like, are you crazy? That's why you divorced your wife? That's why you don't have a good relationship with your kids? For that thing? Yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. I'm not going to say it's not an issue. You're right, it's annoying that your husband always does that. It's annoying that your wife has to stop. It's annoying. Yeah, it's an issue. But don't let the Yetzer hara blow it up. Don't let him make it that this is it. And therefore, our rabbis say, this is the Yetzer hara. And Rabotai, many times, what is the solution to this? What is the tactic? How do we fight this Yetzer hara? And if we go back to our analogy to yeast and to dough, Rabotai, when does dough become like matzah again? Dough that has risen, what does one need to do in order for that dough to go back to being flat? The answer is very simply to wait. Many times, if in life we can just wait, If there's a comment that we want to maybe say to our spouse, but we can just wait and bite our tongue. If our kids do something that's maybe inappropriate, and instead of lashing out on them, we can just wait for a few seconds and count to 10. And that's what they say, breathe, count to 10. If we have a temptation to do something that's maybe inappropriate, that we know is not right, and we're going to be so upset about if we do it in 5 minutes. If we could just hold back for a minute and just wait. Just wait. And the Yetzer Hara slowly will settle, will calm down. The big bubble, the big balloon, the big piece of dough, however big he made it, if we could just breathe, if we could just take a second, it'll go down. The temptation will go away, the anger will go away, the feelings, the things that we want to say, they'll all settle. But we have to wait, we have to give it a chance. This is such a powerful message, reminding us the tricks and the strategies of the Yetzer Hara. And this is the name of his game. And if we know this, and if we can just remind ourselves the next time we're about to do something, right now I want to say Lashon Hara, and it's going to be so fun. But remind ourselves how bad we may feel in 5 minutes. And that in 5 minutes it won't even matter. And the feeling that we have is going to settle. Then maybe we'll be able to catch ourselves. And with this, we could go back to our examples and to our question, and we could have a beautiful answer. We asked in the beginning, the Jewish people collected money from Egypt 2 times. Once when we left Misraim, and once when we crossed the sea. And we asked, why was it that at Misraim, the Jewish people were so drawn to, at Misraim, the people were not drawn to the money. And at the sea, they were very drawn to the money. And it could be, based on what we said today, we have an answer. And that is that when it comes to mitzvot, mitzvot are in the beginning unappetizing. Think about a rabbi that has a class. The rabbi's got to call the students, listen, ladies, I'm starting a class this week in the middle of the day. Come to the class, and he puts you in charge, and then you call all the other ladies, and you try convincing them that they should come to class, right? The kid tries making a class, tries convincing all the other kids, we're starting a minyan, please come. A lot of times in the beginning, it's like pulling teeth to start the minyan, to start the class, to go to a shiur, to do chesed, right? In the beginning, it's not exciting. But afterwards, we feel great. I'm so happy I went to that class. I'm so happy I started off my day. I'm so happy I was able to keep Shabbat this week. I'm proud of myself, right? When it comes to Averot, it's the exact opposite. The Averah in the beginning is so exciting. If we compare these 2 moments that the Jewish people took money, and we ask ourselves, what was that money used for? We'll find something very interesting. The money that we took from Egypt, what did that money lead to? Anyone know? The money that we took when we left Misraim, that money was actually involved in performing a very Kiddush Hashem. That money led to a big mitzvah. Which big mitzvah did that money lead to? We know that when the Jewish people left the Paro and the Misrim, they looked around a few days later like, oh my gosh, what do? Are we out of our minds? We not only let them go, we not only got eaten with the makots, but we also gave them money. In Hebrew, we say, achalnu ota. We ate it. I can't believe it. We gave them money also? How could they stripped us from every dime we had. And the Egyptians, what got them to chase the Jews was the fact that we took their money. If we would have left without money, the Egyptians would be like, all right, let them go. We'll find other slaves. But they also robbed us. And this is what led to the Egyptians chasing the Jews for 6 days. And eventually it's what led to the greatest miracle in history, the splitting of the sea. So that money that we took in Misraim, we could call mitzvah money. We could call good money. Let's compare though now to the money that we took after the splitting of the sea. The money that washed up onto the shore, what did we end up using that money for? Anyone know? That money, our rabbis tell us, that gold that we took from the sea was eventually used for the Chet HaEgel. It was used. The rabbis tell us there was so much gold that we had That when Moshe, after a couple of months, when we get to Har Sinai and Moshe didn't come down on day 40 because the Jews miscalculated, they took all this gold and they used it for Chet HaEgel. This is actually one of Moshe's defenses for the Jews. God, it's not their fault that they did Chet HaEgel. It's maybe your fault because you gave them so much gold at Yam Suf. And therefore, if we compare these two moments that we became wealthy, at Misraim, that money eventually was used to drown the Egyptians. That's mitzvah money. But the money that we took at the Yam Suf, that money was used for Chet HaEgel. So that was Averah money. And therefore, we now understand. So simple. Why were the Jews so drawn to the money at Yam Suf? Because that money had in its DNA, in its genetic code, it was infused with averot, potential to do Chet HaEgel, and therefore the Yetzer Hara was front and center, making it look big, making it look so tempting. But when it came to the money of Yetziat Misraim, that money was going to be used for a mitzvah. In the beginning, mitzvot, they have to be usually enticed. We have to draw, we have to encourage, we have to create motivation. We're giving free scotch, we're giving free dinner, come to class, there's refreshments, right? Raffle, whatever it is. And therefore, the Jews with the money of Misraim, there was no draw. They weren't running to go and get that money because that money was eventually going to be used for a mitzvah. You know, there was once a fellow who was collecting tzedakah, and the rabbi, after a couple of minutes, he says to this guy, "You're a faker. Get out of my shul." And the guy's like, "No, look." He tries pulling out his papers, and the rabbi, he looks at the papers, and he realizes, he shows, "Look, you see this, and that. You're a faker. It's all a fraud. You made up these papers." And the guy eventually was so embarrassed, he started crying. He's like, "You're right. Please don't report me. I'll give you all my papers. I'll do teshuvah." Anyways, they asked the rabbi, "How'd you know that this guy is a phony? How'd you know?" And the rabbi says, "I've been a rabbi for many, many years. And every day, dozens of people come collecting in my shul. But I never saw anyone have so much hatzlacha in collecting like this guy. If it's so easy to collect, if everyone's giving to this guy so quickly." I had my reservations. I wasn't sure. There's no way this could be a real mitzvah if everyone's so eager to go ahead and do it. I don't know if this story is true, but it's a very powerful point. That sometimes we have to question the things that we're doing with such excitement. Are they really mitzvot? Usually the things that we run to do, we should question. The things that are hard to do, we gotta sit and open a Gemara, and we gotta learn, we gotta pray. Those are usually the mitzvot. We should be zocher, all of us, that we should have the motivation, we should have the drive to be able to go out and do all the mitzvot, and to be able to feel the simcha that we feel at the end and in the beginning. We'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day. God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.